In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Chase Mohseni, and he's sailing over from the folks over at Pencil. Pencil is the website actually says it. I have it open here in front of me. The easiest way to get winning at creative, and that's what we want to talk about, right? How do we help e-commerce brands, or how does Pencil help e-commerce brands to leverage their ad content much faster, much quicker, in a way more effective manner? So we're going to jump into that today. Chase, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick sort of your 360 overview from your own perspective. What is Chase all about in Pencil all about in your own words? Sorry, I just mixed up the
Yeah,
name.
no worries, no worries. Pencil exists to help DTC brands scale their creative testing and find new customers through creative automation. So the process of creating ads is quite tedious and cumbersome. And so what we do is essentially try to close the gap in the middle and bridge the gap between creative and performance. And we do that through, our creative AI, which enables you to create ads in minutes, not days. So that's essentially what we do.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I sort of in teaser I mentioned e-commerce brands. Would you say that's the main use case, or what do you typically see who's leveraging the platform with sort of most success?
Yeah, I would say kind of our core customer is the DTC brand spending on ads. We see our best customers obviously are spending more. They're able to use kind of the throughput of what Pencil can provide in terms of volume and velocity for the ads that they need to create. But DTC brands, they have the best assets. They want to test the most. They have a really engaged both internal team and then customer base. So they're able to kind of cycle through ads. We have, B2B companies and other companies using it, but, the speed of iteration is a little bit slower. So they're not necessarily using Pencil in the kind of optimal way.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Now, who would be the champion within the organization? So does it come more from the sort of the ad creative side, the designers that want to bring it in, say, hey, I have something here, or we can get more performance? Is it the actual marketers that run the campaigns? Who is raising the hand, like, we need something like Pencil?
So it's almost never designers. Designers, I think they eventually learn like why Pencil is powerful for them, but it's not something that they're initially excited about, because you're essentially saying, hey, look, we want to templatize your work. My kind of my pushback to them is like, hey, look, we want to help you do higher level work, right? You should be doing brand work. You should be doing stuff that actually moves the needle. Creating a Facebook ad isn't a really great use of your time. Or creating a TikTok, whatever that may be. To answer your question more directly, the champion is usually someone on the growth or performance team. If it's a smaller team, it's the founder usually who's looking for a better way to kind of build process. If it's a bigger team, it's usually like either a head of marketing or like a VP or something like that.
Makes tons of sense. Now, how do these folks hear about Pencil? Like, what's their journey? How do they get started? Or in other words, what are the client acquisition channels that you guys leverage?
Yeah, so standard kind of Google search. And so we built that up. We see a lot of people coming, through SEO. We've been really kind of trying to build up, the backlinks and also our our kind of SEO optimized content. We see a lot of people also coming from word of mouth, coming from inbound from a lot of the other organic social channels. So LinkedIn, Twitter, and then we have a pretty sizable newsletter. And then we've been pushing a little bit on our YouTube channel. So we've been seeing just a few leads start trickling in from there, which is really exciting. And then from, different appearances on podcasts. But I would say kind of the split is like 50 paid and then 50 organic through newsletter and then our organic channels.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, as a marketing leader, how do you think about the website? Like, what role do you perceive the website plays in their journey of, getting around the concept of Pencil and then getting started?
Yeah, I mean, I think it plays a huge part, especially when they're coming from paid acquisition. So they're a little bit less of a warm lead. So organic, essentially they've interacted with us in some way on some other channel. So there's a little bit more of a warm landing on the website. So they know kind of where they want to go, what they want to learn. For us, obviously, we're doing standard kind of landing pages that we're building for different value props, different keywords, etc. um, but the website plays a huge role. So as a creative company, um, if our website didn't look good, it would be kind of antithetical to the value prop we're selling, which is like, hey, make cool creative really fast. And so we have to be very diligent with how we present ourselves to the market in all of the content that we create. So we're hypersensitive to how our designs look, how kind of the content comes out. And on the YouTube side, it's actually been quite a journey because you're making video content. It's a bit of a lift to make really good looking high production value video content. How we look at the website specifically is what is the what is the thing that they're looking for the most. So what do they need, and then let's talk about the other things that they want underneath that. And we've done the whole features and benefits a lot. We're trying to essentially go for more of an emotional site
Mm-hmm.
going forward a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
because we've seen like features and benefits, they they don't really sell the emotion of what the customer actually is coming to you for, and the problem they're trying to solve is the thing that they really need. Essentially, if you're a platform that people have talked about and is able to spend money, there's a little bit of trust, like you've got what I need. If there's extra stuff, it's up to you to show me in the product, kind of the product experience, but I need to know that there is a core thing here that you're selling me that will deliver value. So for us, it's create ads, get insights, create ads really fast that are predicted to perform, and get insights on what's working and what's not. Like that's it. People want to know what's working. They want to know that they have a better chance of getting ads that are going to win, and they want to know that it's going to be easy and fast.
I mean, what you're just describing there, I'm scrolling through your website, and it actually speaks, right? You have like a lot of headlines like "Never spend an afternoon grinding out at ad formats again." Like it really speaks to the situation rather than
Yeah,
the features, right?
yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. We've tested a lot of essentially, like I have this hypothesis that you can test ads to find your ICP by
Mm-hmm.
testing kind of value props, and essentially just leave. You can either do it through the ad unit or the copy, and essentially use like single variable tests to figure out what's actually moving the needle for those customers. And so again, we did this a lot, and we find that like grinding, there's a lot of non-emotional language that is very kind of intellectual, that aligns with kind of all of our what we like to talk about internally. And so we always talk about like we're way too analytical. We need to be more emotional
Yeah.
with how we communicate what Pencil does. And what we found when we went with the emotional language, kind of like the CPAs went down, all the kind of click metrics went up, and it was like the customers were better because they felt the pain that one line was talking about, and they're like, oh, I need this now. So
Is there
um,
something that helped you to put yourself in that shoes? Is there like, or is there just, if somebody very talented in the team who is doing that? Because I think what you're describing is a common disease on SaaS websites, right? In a
yeah,
way, like, is there anything
yeah.
that you learned in that process to get that to more emotional angle on the pitch?
So I think that there's two things. First, I came to the team from performance and growth, and so I wanted something like this. I
Mhm.
didn't want to have to rely on designers who don't want to make ads ever. That's kind of the big eye roll moment. Hey, I need like 10 ads this week, and they're like, oh God, I'm doing all this cool stuff and I have to make ads. And so you're
Mhm.
always at the back of the line. So I wanted to kind of control my own destiny. And I also knew when you're trying to control your own destiny, it's brutal because you don't have the skills. You want to go use tools. They're never as good as you want them to be. You want to do it fast. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when I came to Pencil, on top of doing performance stuff, I was also running the CS team. And so I was just with customers all day, every day, listening to them, not complain, share their frustrations with like the market writ large, right? So like what's going on in the market that's bothering me, what's hard about my existence, what am I doing with Pencil, and do sales calls as well because we're a small team. So that kind of helped me get in the mind of the user, and then it was just like, okay, let's just iterate on copy. Let's throw it through Pencil's system and see what it comes up with. Does that write some good lines? Does it give us some ideas of where we can go, etc.? And so that was really it. Like I write for every ad. I write the CEO and I write essentially every line of copy that's either in the website or anywhere else. So yeah, it was just kind of iterating on that and figuring out what customers and prospects are responding to most.
Very, very good. Cool. No, that gives a great insight also on how you're thinking about the website. Overall, like because obviously you've been in interesting roles within marketing. What have you learned over the years next to the copy? What is maybe helpful tools, methods, approaches to increase conversions and help people to ultimately understand and convert on the website? Anything that you've picked up over the years that you think was helpful to you?
Yeah, I think the big one is like understanding your customer is going to be, again, I'm not saying anything new, so this is not revolutionary by any means, but we think that we can sit in a dashboard and mathematically kind of figure out how this is going to work. And when you're doing models for how you want the scenarios to go, so essentially, like I always talk to people like, hey, let's do a pre-mortem on worst case scenario, best case scenario, kind of middle road. And if you're okay with the worst case, like we should do it. But if we're not okay with the worst case, like we need to retool. So that's what data is great for. You can kind of figure out where you want to go, you can figure out what you want to try. But in growth and performance, we get really addicted and like we're short-sighted about people and qualitative information, and really like nearsighted and focused on the data. And I think the people who do it best synthesize both and understand there are things about your customers that a data point in a dashboard will not be able to show you. And so you got to go talk to people. You've got to have, the standard post-purchase surveys. You've got to have onboarding flows that ask them what they're looking for. And then also you've got to kind of understand in product when you're looking at signals, what those things mean by watching sessions, etc. So there's a lot of kind of non-scalable work that needs to be done to understand your customers. What that will allow you to do, though, is scale how you do it because you have information in your hands about your customer's persona. And then you can synthesize that with the kind of ocean of data that you have. So if you say understand 100 customers, and you can say, okay, there are three personas, and you say, okay, well, how does the data flow into these three personas? Oh, here is the journey of this customer, here is the journey of this customer, here is the journey of this customer. Now I'm talking about SaaS, but also for a D2C customer, if someone's looking at an ad, then they get to your LP, and then they have your offer. Like this is kind of the three stages of just acquisition. If your landing page is going hard for the sell right at the top, like that is probably not great, especially if like depending on your product, right? If it's a higher ticket item, you've got to explain why it's important. Your ad is a billboard, it got the customer there. Then you want to explain to the landing page. If your offer isn't competitive against the market, everyone's going to go check some Amazon type thing to figure out the product, especially if they're a cold lead. If they're warmer, maybe they've been around and they've seen you or they know about you. It's a different thing. So understanding your customer, their journey, and then being very cognizant of the fact that an ad will not save you if your offer or your landing page, if your offer isn't compelling, and your landing page doesn't kind of do the work of kind of showing why they should buy, your ad is going to get all of the blame because it's the one you're kind of measuring the conversion against. But it is kind of a three-step process. The thing the ad does the best is it's going to pull in high value customers for you so that then you can convert them across the funnel. But like we're releasing an episode of our show Creative Cuts tomorrow, and we talk about this with someone who does this at a really big agency. And his thing was 75% of people or brands don't care about their landing page. They just kind of throw people in and they think the ad is going to make it work. And so that's kind of the macro thing is synthesize qualitative and quantitative, and you will find really strong ways to interact with your customers, and they will feel taken care of more. So don't get too addicted to data because it's like it's a total double-edged sword. It can lead you. I've done it myself. That's been the biggest thing. Coming from like a qualitative, creative background originally, I had to learn all the data. So then you get addicted to it, and you have to kind of find your way back to the middle to understand. Customers are people, and so this is my number one saying. If anyone takes anything out of this whole thing, is behind every data point is a person who's having an individual experience. And you cannot think that every person is thinking the exact same way. And so, yes, you're going to have to make large scale experiences that serve 80% of people, but you want to make it feel like it's just for them. So how can you? And so that's kind of my big thing.
It's interesting. It's been brought up on the show a while ago with the angle of the data points give you the what, and the conversations give you the why, and then you put these two together, you will have a much better understanding. Makes a lot of sense, Chase. As we slowly approaching the end of the interview, we learned a lot about Pencil. We learned about what you guys are doing, who you're serving. I basically just have a question to wrap it up and learn a little bit more about your journey, because what I'm curious about is when you joined sort of your path, or when you took on the path as a marketer for yourself, right? Maybe think back to your very first role that you took on as a marketer. What's the one advice that you would give yourself looking back from today to the journey until now?
Study. So I would do two things, and they kind of are the same thing. Figure out who the leaders are in your space and just devour every piece of information that they have out there, because it's free school. And then figure out who they look up to and devour that information. And then figure out who they look up to and devour that information. And like, it's just a never ending journey. There's so much free stuff out there that you can learn from just incredible people. Now, what I will say is this: they're not going to essentially teach you the fundamentals, but they will show you where to go. And so this is the next stage of that, which is go and really invest as much as you can in your continuing education. So like I set aside a budget every year to go and take classes, go into groups, and people say, oh, well, you learn from doing. What if the people who are doing it at a higher level than you are teaching the class and doing case studies and showing you how to think about it and making you think differently? We get so myopic about how we're doing our business. We need to be brought out of our day to day and like refocused. And so I try to do something every quarter to kind of retool the way I'm thinking. And every time I come out of it, I'm like, God, and the time you're doing the investment, you're like, oh, fuck, like I don't want to spend this money. Then you leave and you're like, man, I would spend double for what I got out of it. And then the second thing is you make connections out of it. You have so much kind of things that you can pull from. So like the two things are learn who you think, who people think, or who you think are leaders in your space, devour their information, and then take the kernel of what they're saying and go find the places where you can get kind of the really deep knowledge, and then go to apply it to your business. I mean, this is not like a, hey, let's be theoretical. It's go take that information and then apply, iterate, test. I think the one thing, again, not new, but done is better than perfect. And so just you need water flowing through the pipes to actually learn anything. If you sit there, again, this comes from my like original background as a filmmaker and screenwriter. You sit there and you like agonize over a frame. You look back, you're like, that didn't matter. And so I can tell you a whole hour-long podcast about the things I agonized over that didn't matter in that career. So yeah, move quickly, learn as much as possible, and invest in your education. When you finish college or whatever you've done, high school, it's not over. That's just the beginning. And if you think it's over, like, you're wrong. You're not doing it right.
And it's over. If you think you're over, then it's over.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be my advice to myself. I wish I had started that earlier.
Very cool. Chase, I really appreciate you were a guest with us on the Pathmark Presenter.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.